Welcome back to part two of a fast conversation about the Fast and Furious. I'm Korbin Zvokel,
And I'm Jackson Mahuron.
and we just watched Too Fast, Too Furious. We're going to talk about it for exactly 10 minutes. Jackson, you haven't seen the movie. You just saw it for the first time. Are you ready to do this, man?
Let's do this. I'm
All
so
right.
excited.
10 minutes on the clock, a fast conversation. Three, two, one. So, by Rotten Tomatoes standards, this is actually the worst of all the franchise.
Okay.
It has a 36% on Rotten Tomatoes critic score, 50% audience score.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
don't think it's the worst one. What did you think about watching it?
I I enjoyed it. I definitely think it's not as good as the first because there's no Dom. We're lacking with Dom.
Where's the Vin?
Okay. Where's the
We need a touch of
family?
the diesel in our
I
life.
know. it's it's definitely lacking. I will say the addition of Tyrese Gibson as Roman somebody, I don't
Pierce.
remember, Pierce. Super cool. I love this buddy cop approach in the sequel. But it is lacking. The story is just overall lacking and it's not as good.
Yeah, so just to kind of touch on how this sequel happened, obviously the first movie grossed over $200 million
Mm-hmm.
worldwide. It was an original story based on a comic, well, based on or sorry, it was an original story based on a real life event, real life news story. But they wanted to make a sequel because it was extremely successful. The director of this movie, John Singleton, who you might know from directing Shaft and Boys in the Hood to, much better movies, he watched the first Fast and Furious movie and he said, damn, why didn't I think of that? I grew up in South Central LA. I street raced. So he had that reaction of like, I want to be a part of this. So he wanted to come in and direct this movie. The screenplay was written by Michael Brandt and Derek Haas, and then, based on the original characters by Gary Toman from the first one. They actually came up with two film treatments, one featuring Vin Diesel and one without him. And then I believe he was offered $25 million to return, to which he turned down because of this
What?
like idea that the script wasn't good enough. He didn't want to just turn this into a franchise if the story wasn't right. He wanted to do this right. Vin Diesel, he's an artist. So
That's
he said
crazy.
no, and that's why he
Knowing
wasn't in this movie. And then we get the secondary treatment that has, Brian O'Connor and Roman Pierce instead.
wow.
To me, this kind of feels like a bad Michael Mann movie a little bit, and
Okay.
it's just like doesn't quite match up with the way the tone should be. It's funny in points, but it doesn't focus on that. And the ending climax is pretty weak. I mean, they do the boat jump, which I guess you could say is
You say that's
reminiscent.
weak. I don't know. I kind of liked it.
I think in the scheme of Fast and Furious endings, it's definitely one of the weaker ones. Let's talk about the characters as a whole.
Okay.
So you mentioned Tyrese. His entrance is fantastic. He's a funny
Super fun.
character,
Yeah.
and he's one that is super important throughout the franchise. And it's great that they bring him in the second movie.
Yeah.
If you're not going to have Vin Diesel, it's important to have Dom. He's got some great quotes. Did you have a favorite Roman
Oh,
Pierce moment?
I wrote down a bunch of quotes. One from Not Him that I'll just say really quick of the girl jumping
The bridge.
the bridge and saying "smack that ass."
Sweet,
Insane,
great character.
truly insane. Love her. But the quotes from him that I really love: "Ejecto Cedo, cuz," as he like punches a dude with this ejector seat, but it's not an ejector seat. It just blows the door off so you can like punch
I
people
think it
out.
shoots the seat out as well because the seat went with him. The thing is, that is such an iconic moment that like I feel like transcends beyond like my friends and I in high school would like say that shit when we were like playing baseball, and it was just like a thing you would say.
That's
And it's so
awesome.
funny that it just originates from this like one Tyrese moment in this movie.
It's so
It's
weird.
so
And then of
great.
course my other favorite scene of favorite quote from him is "Don't drop the soap, big homie." That is just iconic. I mean, come on.
He's got a lot of great stuff. When we first, his first like real moment of being funny, because when we first meet him, he's kind of an asshole. He's just like a
Yeah.
dick. He hates Brian. But then finally, the introduced to the two cars, and he's like, "Don't even think about taking the convertible to Brian," which I think is great. There's a good, I got a high metabolism, and he does this like Southern drawl when he's doing it. He's the best character. We got to
Super
also
fun.
admit or mention Ludacris in this movie as
Yeah.
well, playing the
Hmm.
character of Tej, who is another one that continues to pop up throughout the
Yeah. I was
franchise.
gonna
What did you
say
think about it? What did you think
I
about
remember
Luda's
seeing
acting?
him. I thought he was fun. I don't necessarily think it's so weird judging acting in these movies because like I don't really put any effort into like even acknowledging if it's good or bad because I'm just like, this is what it is. Like I don't know. I like his character though. I think he has kind of an interesting background, and I like that he's just like the guy who runs all these events. But speaking of the street racing stuff, I gotta say, I don't think the street racing was nearly as interesting in this movie.
Yeah, and it's weird because they kind of go away from the typical drag racing that we see,
Yeah,
the quarter mile at a time of
exactly.
the Toretto
It's
family.
like you're doing these
But it's like
crazy long.
F1 doing spinny
Yeah.
courses through the streets of Miami, which is like cool, but there's just something about it that just is less interesting.
Well, here's what bothers me. They set up this whole scene of these people putting roadblock signs, but they drove for like 5 miles. Like, did they put up? There was other streets that combined with this
Right.
road. Like,
And they've like their route goes over a bridge that
yeah,
also
like
sometimes is up and they just have to jump it.
truly
Doesn't
crazy,
seem very smart.
insane. But I did think like in like where like the first movie, like we were kind of bored with like the heist stuff. I think like them doing like the stunts at the end, I was way more invested in as far as like, oh shit, they're jumping onto a boat. That's crazy. That's super like this is like the birth of where these movies are going to go, I assume.
Yeah, you are right. It is. I was a little bit surprised that the boat jump happened this one because in my memory, it always seems like these earlier movies seem a little
Mhm.
bit more grounded in reality. But then you just have that like one moment where it's like, what the fuck? Like they just, and also it's like it's weird because it's like they jump on the boat and then they're just like they pull a gun on the guy and
I
shoot. Like
like, yeah, I like
it's
how they're
not
like,
very
oh
like
fuck, they're like all
nothing really
fucked up.
happens.
It's not cool. Like you would think that they would like get out and be like freeze, but they're like, oh my god, I think I broke my arm, and then like they shoot the dude once, and luckily that other girl is able to show up and put the gun onto him.
I will admit the way it's played and kind of like the consequence of the act, what would happen if you actually jumped onto a boat is more based in reality than
It's
other movies
funny.
where it's like a lot of times they would just land, probably in the future, they would land perfectly and hop
Oh,
out, like you
totally,
said.
yeah. They'd like spin the back tire to knock the guy out or something.
I really do enjoy the opening of this movie. First of all, the Universal logo turns
Really
into like
sick.
a rim, which is an awesome thing. Anytime you take the corporatized logos at the beginning and add your
Give it
own
some style.
music or style or
Yeah.
anything to it, I love that. It is emulating kind of the weird car CG stuff that these movies love to do. There's some more in this where it's like inside the car
Yeah.
technology,
I kind
early
of like that
animated.
stuff still.
It's cool, but it's just like it's like it's so computer
It
generated.
is very
It's not even
distracting.
attempting to be real. It's just
I
it's
I
basically
pref
the end credits.
Yeah, I definitely prefer those to like the whenever they do the like the boosters stuff. Like that's like it feels so like live action anime bad adaptation that it's like very
Mhm.
very weird to me.
Um this movie does have like a weird final destination kill in it where like a
Yeah,
car gets rolled over by a semi, which is just
you get
fucking insane.
squished. And then of
You
course the rat. You want to talk about the rat?
Yeah, we should talk about that. First of all, Cole Hauser is the villain of this movie. He's
Uh-huh.
the fourth guy in the crew of Good Will Hunting. He's not one of the Affleck twins. He's just the guy with the red hair. And I think in parts of this,
Oh,
his Boston accent comes through a little bit, and it's a little weird for me. But yeah, he's doing this like super creepy villain, weird, uh, like performance. And then
that's
yeah,
so
you
weird.
have this weird club set where he pulls the guy from the Dark Knight trilogy, like you said.
Yeah, it's
Um,
Harvey Bullock, I think.
and they stick a rat on him. I mean, this is a weird scene for a Fast and Furious movie.
It's
Talk me through it,
cool.
Cody or Jackson.
Wow, that's okay. It's just like they put this thing on him and they put a rat in him and they're gonna heat up the bucket and it like basically saying that rats can bite through steel, which I don't think is true, but like with the assumption that like this rat is going to bury into this dude's skin and like flesh to get out, which is so
Yeah,
disgusting.
there's one way out. It is very. It's like a very comic booky. Feels like a thing like the Joker would do to
But
someone.
but
It's
also,
weird.
why would they say the rat can chew through steel and then put a metal bucket on top of him? That's kind of stupid too, I guess.
Yeah, like why wouldn't he just chew his way out? But it's a hot bucket.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
We gotta do a couple things at the end here. Title rank. This movie is Too Fast, Too
I love it.
Furious.
It's great.
Better or worse title than The Fast and Furious?
I guess technically worse, but it is a very fun sequel name.
I'd be okay with taking it as number one.
Yeah.
I
I
think
think
we should put it.
the opening graphic for the title is way better too, because like the first one is just atrocious.
All right, 30 seconds left. Jackson, what's going to happen in the third movie, Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift?
They're gonna go to Tokyo, and they're gonna drift.
You are 100% right. We are going to Tokyo. We are going to drift, but they're not going to do it because every single character in this movie is a new character. No Paul Walker, no Vin Diesel. Excited for it. Tokyo Drift coming in the future. And yeah, time.
Lovely.